Reading 1 of the CFA official textbook. This is the Chartered Financial Analyst Level 1 Program Curriculum Textbook, Reading 1. Ethics and Trust in Investment Profession. Learning outcomes, mastery of explaining ethics, describe the role of the code of ethics in defining a profession, identifying challenges to ethical behavior, describe a need for high ethical standards in the investment industry, distinguish between ethical and legal standards, describe and apply a framework for ethical decision making. Introduction. As a candidate in the CFA program, you are both expected and required to meet high ethical standards. This reading introduces ideas and concepts that will help you understand the importance of ethical behavior in the investment industry. You will be introduced to various types of ethical issues within the investment profession and learn about the CFA Institute Code of Ethics. Subsequently, you will be introduced to a framework as a way to approach ethical decision making. Imagine that you are employed in the research department of a large financial service firm. You and your colleagues spend your days researching, analyzing, and valuing the shares of publicly traded companies and sharing your investment recommendations with clients. You love your work and take a great satisfaction in knowing that your recommendations can help your firm's investing clients make informed investment decisions that will help them meet their financial goals and improve their lives. Several months after starting at the firm, you learn that an analyst at the firm has been terminated for writing and publishing research reports that misrepresented the fundamental risks of some companies and investors. You learn that the analyst wrote the report with the goal of pleasing the management of the companies that were the subject of his research report. He hoped that the companies will hire your firm's investment banking division for its services, and he would be rewarded with large bonuses for helping the firm increase investment banking fees. Some clients brought shares based on the analyst report and suffered losses. They post stories on the internet about their losses and misleading nature of the report. When the media investigated and published the story, the firm's reputation for investment research suffered. Investors began to question the firm's motives and objectives of its research recommendation. The firm's investment clients started to look elsewhere for investment advice. The company's client began to transfer their business in firms with intruding reputations. With business declining, management is forced to trim staff. Along with many other hardworking colleagues, you lose your job through no fault of your own. Imagine how you would feel in this situation. Most people would feel upset and resentful that their hard and honest work was derailed by someone else's unethical behavior. Yet this type of scenario is not uncommon. Around the world, unsuspecting employees at such companies as SAC Capital, Stanford Financial Group, Everbright Securities, Enron, StatRand Company Services, Computer Services, Arthur Andersen, and other large companies have experienced such career setbacks when some people else's actions destroyed their company and industries. Business and financial markets thrive on trust, defined as strong belief in the reliability of a person or institution. In a 2013 study on trust, investors indicated that to earn their trust, the top 3 attributes of an investment manager should be that in 1, has transparent and open business practices, 2, take responsible actions to address the issue or crisis, and 3, has ethical business practices. Although these attributes are valued by customers and clients in any industry, this reading will explore why there are particular importance to the investment industry. Many people may think that ethical behavior is simply about following laws, regulations, and other rules. But throughout their lives and careers, we will encounter situations in which there are no definitive rules that specifies how to act, or the rules that exist may be unclear or even in conflict with each other. Responsible people, including investment professionals, must always be able to identify potential ethical issues and create solutions to them, even in the absence of clearly stated rules. 2. Ethics. Through our individual actions, Each of us can affect the lives of others. Our decisions and behaviors can harm or benefit a variety of stakeholders, individuals or groups, or individuals who can be affected either directly or indirectly by a decision, and thus have an interest or stake in a decision. Examples of stakeholders and decisions made by investment industry professionals includes our colleagues, our clients, our employers, our communities in which we live and work. The investment profession and other financial market participants, in some cases, our actions may benefit all the stakeholding groups. In other cases, our action may benefit only some stakeholders, and in still other cases, our action may benefit some stakeholder groups and harm others. For example, recall and research analysts in their introduction rewrote misleading research reports with the aim of increasing the financial benefit of himself and his employer. In the very short term, his conduct seemed to directly benefit some stakeholders, certain clients, himself and his employers, and to harm other stakeholders, clients who invested it based on their reports. Over a long time period, his conduct results in harm to himself and many other stakeholders, his employer, his employer's clients, his colleagues, investors, and drew loss of trust with the story that was published, the larger financial markets. Ethics encompasses a set of moral principles and rules of conduct that provides guidance for our behaviors. The word ethics comes from the Greek word ethos, which means character, used to describe the guiding beliefs or ideals characterizing a society or social group. Beliefs are assumptions or thoughts we hold to be true. A principle is defined as a belief or fundamental truth that serves as a foundation for a system or belief or behavior or a chain of reasoning. Our belief for our values, those things we deem to have worth or merit. Moral principles or ethical principles are beliefs regarding what is good, acceptable, or obligatory behavior and what is bad, acceptable or forbidden behavior. Ethical principles may refer to beliefs regarding behavior that an individual expects of himself or herself, as well as shared beliefs regarding standards of behavior expected or required by a community or society group, social group. Another definition of ethics is the study of moral principles, which can be described as the study of good and bad behavior, or the study of making good choices as opposed to bad choices. The study of ethics examines the role of consequences and personal character in defining what is considered good or ethical conduct. Ethical conduct is behavior that follows moral principles and balances self-interest with both the direct and indirect consequences of behavior on others. Ethical actions and those actions that are perceived as beneficial and conforming to the ethical expectations of society. An action may be considered beneficial if it improves the outcome or consequences for stakeholders affected by the action. Telling the truth about the risk or cost associated with recommended investments, for example, is an ethical action. That is one that conforms to ethical expectations of society in general and clients in particular. Telling the truth is also beneficial. Telling the truth builds trust with customers and clients and enables them to make more informed decisions, which should lead to better outcomes for them and higher levels of clients' customer satisfaction for you and your employers. Widely acknowledged ethical principles include honesty, fairness, or justice, diligence, respect, and the right to for rights of others. Most social groups share these fundamental ethical principles and build on them. Establishing a shared set of rules regarding how members should behave in certain situations, the principle or rule may take different forms depending on the community establishing them. Governments and related entities, for example, may establish laws and or regulations to reflect widely shared beliefs and obligatory and forbidden conduct. Laws and regulations and rules of conduct specified by government bodies such as legislatures or regulators, identifying how individuals and entities under its jurisdiction should behave in certain situations. Most countries have laws and regulating governing the investment industry and conduct of its participants. Differences in laws may reflect differences in beliefs and values. In some countries, for example, the laws require that an investment advisor act in the best interest of his and her clients. Other countries require the investment profession recommend investment that is suitable for his or her client. Investment advisors and portfolio managers who are required by law to act in the client's best interest must always put the client's interests ahead of their own and an employer's interests. Investment advisor who is required by law to act in the client's best interest, on the other hand, may understand the client's financial objectives and risk tolerance, research and investigate multiple investment opportunities, and recommend the investment or investment portfolio that is most suitable for the client in the term of meeting his or her long-term financial objectives. In addition to, investment advisors would be expected to monitor his client's financial situation and investments to ensure that investment recommendations remains the best overall option for meeting for clients and long-term financial objectives. In countries with only suitability requirements, it is legal for investment professionals to recommend a suitable investment to a client even if other similar suitable investments with lower fees are available. These differences in laws reflect differences in beliefs and values. Specific communities or social groups in which we live and work sometimes codify their beliefs about obligatory and forbidden conducts in a written set of principles, often called code of ethics. Universities, employers, and professional associations often adopt the code of ethics to communicate the organization's values and overall expectations regarding members' behaviors. The code of ethics serves as a general guide for how community members should act. Some communities will also expand their code of ethics and adopt explicit rules and standards to identify specific behaviors regarding the community members. These standards of conduct serve as benchmarks for the minimally acceptable behavior for community members, as can help clarify the code of ethics. Members can choose behaviors and that demonstrates even higher standards by joining the community. Members are agreeing to adhere to the community's codes and ethics of standards of conduct to promote their code of ethics and reduce the inconvenience of violations. Communities frequently display their code on prominent locations and as written material. In addition, most communities require permanent locations and as written material. In addition, most communities require that members commit to their own codes of conduct in writing and an annual or frequent basis. Violations of communities' established code or ethics and or standards of conduct can harm the communities in various ways. Violations has the potential to damage the community's reputation among external stakeholders and the general public. Violations can also damage the community's reputation internally and lead to reduced trust among community members and can cause the organization to fracture or splinter from within. To protect the reputation of its membership and limit potential harm to innocent members, the community may take corrective actions to investigate possible violations, repair any damages, and attempt to discipline the violators or, in severe cases, revoke the violator's membership in the community. CFA Institute is an example of a community with an established code of ethics and standard of conduct. Its members and candidates commit to adhere to shared beliefs about acceptable conduct for individual participants in the investment industry. These beliefs are presented to the Code of Ethics and Standards of Perfection, aka Code of Standards, which are included in the CFA Institute Standards and Practice Handbook. The Code of Ethics communicates the organization's principles, values, and expectations. For example, the code states that members and candidates place the integrity of the investment profession and the interests of clients above their own personal interests. The standards of profession conduct outline minimal acceptable behavior accepted by the CFA Institute members and candidates. For example, one standard requires that members and candidates must act for the benefits of their clients and place the client's interests before the employer's or their own interests. Another standard requires that members and candidates must make full and fair disclosures of all materials interfering with respective duties to their clients. Respective clients and employers should be delivered in plain language and communicate to the relevant information effectively. CFA Institute members and candidates are reaffirmed that their commitment and adherence to the Code of Standards each year. In addition, to protect the reputation of the community, members and candidates agree to submit a professional conduct statement each year disclosing conduct they may have violated the codes of standards. To protect members and candidates, CFA institutes have an established disciplining process. Members and candidates who violate the code of standards are subject to disciplinary actions. Example 1, ethics. Which of the following statements must be accurate? Ethics can be described as A, a commitment to upholding the law, B, an individual's personal opinion about right and wrong, C, a set of moral principles and that provide guidance to our behavior. Question 2, which of the following statements is most accurate? Standards of conduct. A, as a necessary component of any code of ethics, B, serve as a general guide regarding proper conduct by members of a specific group, C, serving as a benchmark for the minimal acceptability behavior required for a membership of a group. Solution to 1. C is correct. Ethics can be described as a set of moral principles that provide guidance for our behavior. These may be moral principles shared by a community or social group. Solution 2. C is correct. Standards of conduct serve as benchmarks for the minimal acceptable behavior required by members of a group. Some organizations will adopt only code of ethics which communicates the organization's values and overall expectations regarding the members' behavior. Others may adopt both a code of ethics and standards of conduct. Standards of conduct identify specific behaviors regarded by the community's members to serve as a benchmark for the minimal acceptable behavior of community members. Ethics and professionalism. Reading 3, Part 3. Reading 1, Part 3. As you progress in your career, you may find the attitudes among your peers vary. Some of your peers may be happy to have a job, others may consider themselves fortunate to find a vocation, and some may consider themselves part of a profession. What are the differences? A job is simply the work somebody does to earn a living. A vocation is a job or occupation to which someone in particular is well suited and is very dedicated. Often people refer to a vocation as a calling. The work in service of a cause is considered worthy. A profession is the ultimate evolution of the occupation, resulting from the efforts of multiple participating in occupations at a high level and resulting from efforts of creating a set of ethical standards of conduct for an entire group. A profession has several characteristics that distinguish it from ordinary occupation. A profession is 1. Based on specialized knowledge and skills. 2. Based on the service of others. 3. Practiced by members who share and agree to adhere to common code of ethics. Professionals use their specialized knowledge and skills to serve other clients, with whom they have special relationships and to whom they have special duties. Clients differ from customers. A customer purchases goods or services in a singular transactions, or a series of transactions to pay for each other transaction, or a series of transactions. A client, in contrast, enters into an ongoing relationship with a professional, hiring the professional to use his or her special knowledge for the benefit of the client. Usually, professionals to use his or her special knowledge with the benefit of the client, usually for a fee. The relationship between the client and the professional is based on trust rather than transaction. In exchange for an agreed-on fee, professionals accept on duty to place the client's interests first at all times. In any given profession, the code of ethics communicates the shared principles and expected behaviors of its members. In addition to providing members with guidance for decision-making, a code of ethics may generate confidence among not only members of the profession, but also individuals who are not members of the profession, such as clients, prospective clients, and or the general public. The code of ethics informs providers and provides some assurance to the public that a profession's members will use their specialized skills and knowledge to service others. Some codes will be enhanced to clarified by the adoption of a standard of conduct or specific benchmarks or behaviors principles required of members. These standards may be principles based on rules. The CFA Institutes and standards are an example of principles based standards. They are based on the shared principles of honesty, integrity, transparency, diligence, and placing clients' interests first. Rule-based standards are often narrowly defined, applying to specific groups of individuals in specific circumstances. Principle-based standards, such as those of the CFA Institute, applying to all candidates and members at all times, regardless of title, positions, occupation, geographical locations, or specific situation. As a CFA program candidate, you are expected to act in accordance with the ethical and professional competency and responsibility of the investment profession. As expressed of the Code of Ethics, the code and standards of the designated to foster and reinforce the culture of responsibility and professionalism. The code and standards applied to your professional activities, including but not limited to trading securities for yours and or others, providing investment advice, conducting research, and performing other investment services. Example 2, ethics and professionalism. Which of the following statement best describes how professionals are, their specified knowledge and skills? Professionals use their specialized knowledge and skills, A, in service to each other, in service to others, B, in service to their careers, and to advance their careers, C, for the exclusive benefits of their employers. Which of the following statements is most accurate? A professional's conduct of ethics includes A, including a standard of conduct for specific benchmarks for behavior. B, ensures all members of a profession will act ethically at all times. C, publicly communicates to the shared principles of expected behavior of professional members. Solutions to 1. Question 1, A is correct. Professionals use specified knowledge and skills to serve to others. The careers and employers may benefit, but those results are not the primary focus of the of the professional's use of his or her specified knowledge and skills. Solution 2C is correct. A professional's code and ethic publicly communicates the shared principles and shared behaviors of a profession's members. The existence of a code of ethics does not ensure that all members will have in a manner consistent with the code and act ethically at all times. A profession will often establish a disciplinary process to address alleged violations of the code of ethics. A profession may adopt standards of conduct to enhance and clarify the code of ethics. Part 4, reading 1, challenges to ethical conduct. Professionals generally aim to be responsible and adhere to high moral standards. So what is the benefit of studying ethics? Throughout our career, we may find ourselves in difficult or at least unfamiliar situations in which an appropriate course of actions is not immediately clear, and or there may be others who seemingly acceptable choice. Studying ethics helps us prepare for such situations. This section addresses challenges to engage in ethical conduct. Failure to acknowledge or understand or consider these challenges can lead to poor decision-making, resulting in unintentional consequences such as unethical conduct and potential violations of the Code of Standards. Severe challenges can make adherence to ethical conduct difficult. First, people tend to believe that they are ethical people and that their ethical standards are higher than average. Of course, everyone cannot be above average. However, surveys show this belief in above averageness remains. As reported in the Crisis of Culture 2013, for example, 71% of surveyed financial services executives rated their firm's reputation for ethical conduct better than the rest of the industry. Among those surveyed, 59 rated their industry's reputation of ethical conduct as positive. In contrast, a survey of global consumer sentiment conducted the same year revealed that only 46% of consumers surveyed trusted the financial service providers to do the right thing. In fact, financial services was the least trusted of all industries surveyed. These survey results illustrates overconfidence, a common behavior bias that can lead to faulty decision making. Studies have shown that our beliefs and emotions frequently interfere with our cognitive reasoning and results in behavior bias, a tendency to behave in a way that is not strictly rational. As a result of overconfidence, bias, we are more likely to overestimate the morality of our own behavior, particularly in solutions that we have not faced before. Overconfidence bias can result in a failure to consider explicitly or implicitly important inputs and variables needed to form the best decision from an ethical perspective. In general, the overconfidence bias leads us to place too much importance on internal traits and intrinsic motivations, such as I'm honest and would not lie. Even though studies have shown the internal traits and are generally not the main determinants of whether or not someone will behave ethically in a given situation. A second challenge is that decision makers fail to recognize and or significantly underestimate the effect of situational influences, such as what other people around them are doing. Situational influences are external factors, such as environmental or cultural elements that shapes our thinking, decision-making, and behavior. Social psychologists have studied how situation influences affect our behavior, and I have found that even good people with honorable motives can often be influenced by unethical things when put in difficult situations. Experiments have shown that even people who consider themselves strong, independent, free thinkers will conform to social pressure in many situations. The bystander effect, for example, demonstrates that people are less likely to intervene in an emergency when others demonstrate that people are less likely to intervene in an emergency when others are present. Fortunately, experiments have also shown that situation influences can induce people to act more ethically. For example, people tend to behave more ethically when they think someone else is watching, or when there is a mirror placed close to them. The important concept to understand the situational influence have a very powerful and often unrecognized effect on our thinking and behavior. Thus, learning to recognize situational influences is critical to making good decisions. Uncommon situational influences in the investment industry can shape thinking and behavior, include money and prestige. One experiment found that simply mentioning money can reduce ethical behavior. In the experiment, participants were less likely to cooperate with playing games if the game was called Wall Street games rather than the community games, then called the community game. In the investment industry, large financial rewards, including individual salaries, bonuses, and or investment gains, can induce honest and well-intentioned individuals to act in ways that others might consider unethical. Some large financial rewards and or prestige can motivate individuals to act in their own short-term self-interests, ignoring possible short-term risks and consequences to themselves and others, as well as long-term risks or consequences for both themselves and others. Another extremely powerful situation influence is loyalty. Loyalty to supervisors or organizations. Fellow employees and other colleagues can tempt individuals to make compromises and take actions that would reject the different situations' influence or judge harshly when taken by others. Situational influence often blind people to other important considerations. Bonuses, promotions, prestige, and loyalty to the employer and colleagues are often examples of situational influences that frequently have a disproportional rate in our decision making. Our brains are easily and quickly identified, recognized, and considered these short-term situation influences and quickly long-term considerates such as commitment and maintaining our integrity and contributions to the integrity of the financial markets. Although absolutely important, these long-term considerations often have less immediate consequences than situational influences, making them less obvious as factors to consider in a decision and therefore less likely to influence our overall decision-making. Situational influences shifts our brain's focus from long-term to short-term immediate return. When our decision-making is too narrow, focus on short-term and concepts and risk of consequences to others, to ourselves and others, and the likelihood of suffering from ethical lapses, making poor decision-making increases. The story of Enron Corporation, a United States energy company, illustrates the power of situational influences. In the late 1990s, approximately 20,000 employees of the company's culture focused on increasing current revenues and to share price without regard of the long-term sustainability or consequences of such a culture. Management received significant stock options, which provided strong motivation to make decisions and take actions that will increase the share prices. The focus on share price was inescapable. Employees were greeted by stock triggers and lobbies and elevators of their computer screens. The focus on share price overshadows considerations about stakeholders and long-term sustainability of the business and its profits. Under these situations, some senior managers made poor decisions and eventually succumbed to unethical conduct. They devised and adopted complex accounting strategies that inflated revenue, obscured the company's financial performance, and hid billions of dollars in debt. In October 2001, the financial press revealed that Enron's accounting practices has previously concealed. Shares of Enron, which has reached a height of $90.75 in mid-2000s, fell to less than $1 by the end of November 2001. The company, which had claimed revenues of nearly 111 billion in 2000, secured a place in the record books as one of the largest bankruptcy in U.S. history. Dozens of former executives and employees were investigated, and many were charged with fraud and or conspiracy. 16 individuals pleaded guilty, including Chief Financial Officer Andrew S. Fastro, who pleaded guilty to conspiracy, fortified nearly $30 million in cash and property, was sentenced to 6 years in prison. After a lengthy investigation and trial, former Chief Executive Officer Jeffrey K. Skillings was convicted in May 2006 of fraud, conspiracy, insider trading, and making false statements. He was sentenced to more than 24 years in prison, a sentence that was eventually reduced to 14 years. Loyalty to employers and or colleagues is an extremely powerful situational influence. Our colleagues can influence our thinking and behavior in both positive and negative ways. For example, colleagues may encourage your commitment to your career and high ethical standards by enrolling in the CFA program. If you work for or work with people who are not bound by the code of standards, they might encourage you to take actions that are consistently with local law. Unaware of the recommended conduct falls short of the code of standards. Well-intentioned firms may adopt or develop strong compliance programs to encourage adherence to rules, regulations, and policies. A strong compliance policy is a good start to developing an ethical culture, but a focus on adherence to rules may not be sufficient. A compliance approach may not encourage decision-making to consider the larger picture and oversimplify decision-making. Taken to the blinds, employees and other important considerations in a firm focus primarily on compliance. Employers may adopt a check-the-box mentality rather than an ethical decision-making approach. Employees may ask the question, what could I do, rather than what should I do? At Enron, for example, the compliances for procedures, CFO Fastro notifies disclosures that he was the owner of several partnerships planning to transact businesses with Enron. With powerful situational influences at work, Fasto and the board members focused on what can I do rather than what should I do. Compliances required the Fasto make ownership disclosure and required approval from the proposed business transaction from Enron's board of directors, which he did. Board members seem to focus on the compliance requirements to provide broad approval, and they neglect the view of issue of the broad perspective and the consideration of what should we do. Consequently, they fail to recognize his employer and his shareholders by focusing on the compliance requirements to provide broad approval. Board members fail to prevent Fasto from engaging in activities that enriched himself at the expense of his employers and its stakeholders. The Enron case illustrates both the power of situational influences and the limitations of a compliance approach, which can contribute to overconfidence and its insignificance of ensuring ethical decision-making. Example 3. Challenges to ethical conduct. Which of the following will most likely determine whether an individual will behave unethically? A. A person's character. B. A person's internal traits and intrinsic motivations. C. External factors such as environmental or cultural elements. Question 2. Which of the following statement is most accurate? Large financial rewards such as bonuses are the most powerful situational influences. B. When decision-making focuses on short-term factors, the likelihood of ethical conduct increases. C. Situational influences can motivate individuals to act in their short-term self-interest without recognizing the long-term risks or consequences for themselves and others. Solution to question 1. C is correct. Social psychologists have shown that even good people may behave unethically in different situations. Situational influences, which are external factors, e.g. environment or cultural elements, can shape our thinking, decision-making, and behavior and are more likely to lead to unethical behavior than internal traits or characters. Solution 2. C is correct. Situational influences can motivate individuals to act in their short-term self-interest without recognizing the long-term risks or consequences for themselves and others. Large financial rewards and powerful situational influences are powerful situational influences. But in some situations, other situational influences, such as loyalty to colleagues, may even be more powerful. The importance of ethical conduct in the investment industry. Why are high ethical standards so important for the investment industry and the investment profession? As the global financial crisis of 2008 demonstrated, isolated and seemingly unimportant individual decisions, such as approving loans to individuals unable to provide proof of sustainable income, in aggregate can precipitate a market crisis that can lead to economic difficulties and job losses for millions of individuals. In an interconnected global economy, the market and marketplace, each market participant must strive to understand how his or her decisions and actions and the products and services he or she provides may affect others, not just in the short term, but also in the long term. The investment industry serves a society by matching those who can supply capital or money with those who can supply capital to finance. Those who seek capital to finance or fund their activities. For simplification, let us refer to those who supply capital and as investors and those who seek capital as borrowers. Borrowers may seek capital to achieve long-term goals, such as building or upgrading factories, schools, bridges, highways, airports, railroads, or other facilities. They may also seek short-term capital to fund short-term goals and or support their daily operations. Borrowers seek capital to meet short-term and long-term objectives, including sovereign entities, businesses, schools, hospitals, companies, and other organizations that serves others. Some borrowers will turn to banks and other lending institutions to finance their activities. Others will turn to financial markets to access the funds they need to achieve their goals. In exchange for supplying capital to fund the borrower's endeavors, investors expect that their investments will generate returns and compensate them for the use of their funds and the risks involved. Before providing capital, diligent and disciplined investors will evaluate the risks and reward of providing the capital. Some risks, such as a downturn in the economy or new competitors, can adversely affect the returns. Another reason why trust is important in the investment industry has to do with the nature of its product and services. In other industries, such as transportation, produce products and or providing services to tangible and or clearly visible products, we can hold the electronic tablet in our hands and inspect it. We can use software programs, shop at retailers, dine in restaurant chains, and watch films. We could judge the quality of the product or service based on the variety of factors. How well does it perform its intended function? How efficient is it? How durable is it? How appealing is it? Is it priced reasonably or appropriate for the product or service? In the investment industry, many investments are intangible and appear only as numbers on a page or a screen. Investments cannot hold, inspect, or test the intended purchases as they can a smartphone or a television set, each of which often comes with warranties such that they fail to function as advertised. Without tangible products to inspect, and with no warranties for protections such as the products or services failed to perform as expected, investments may rely on information provided about the investment both before and after purchase. When they call their financial advisors and ask their investment and ask to see their investment, they receive either an electronic or printed statement with a list of holdings. They trust the information is accurate and complete, a fair representation, just as they trust the investment professionals to whom they are dealing will protect their interests. The globalization of finance will mean the investment professionals are likely to have business opportunities in new or unfamiliar places. Without trust, financial transactions, including global transactions, are less likely to occur. Because of these factors, trust is the very foundation of the financial market. This trust is built, fostered, and maintained by ethical actions and all individuals who work and participate in the market, including those who work for companies, banks, investment firms, sovereign entities, rating agencies, accounting firms, financial advisories, and planning. The institutional and retail investors, when market participants act ethically, investors and others can trust that the numbers on the screen or the pages are accurate representations and could be confident in investing and participating in the financial markets in the world is worthwhile. Ethical behavior by all market principles can lead to broader participation in the markets, protection of clients' interests, and more opportunities for investment professionals and their firms. Ethical behavior by firms can lead to higher levels of success and profitability for their firm as well as their employees. Clients are attracted to the firm with trustworthy reputations, leading to more businesses, higher revenues, and more profits. Ethical firms may also enjoy lower relative costs than unethical firms because regulators are less likely to initiate costly investigations or impose significant fines on firms in which high ethical standards are the norm. Conversely, unethical behavior erodes and can even destroy trust when clients and investors suspect that they are not receiving accurate information or that the market is not a level playing field. They lose trust. Investors with a low trust are less willing to accept risk. They may demand a higher return for use of their capital, choose to invest elsewhere, or choose not to invest at all. Any of these actions will increase costs for borrowers seeking capital to finance their activities. Without access to capital, borrowers may not be able to meet their goals for building new factories, bridges, or hospitals. Decrease in investment can harm society by reducing jobs, growth, and innovation. Unethical behavior ultimately harms not only clients, but also the firm, its employees, and others. Diminishing trust in financial markets can reduce growth and the investment industry and tarnish the reputation of firms and individuals in the industry, even if they did not participate in unethical behavior. Unethical behavior interferes with the ability of markets to channel capital to the borrowers that could create the most value from the capital, contributing to economic growth. Both market and society suffers when unethical behavior destroys trust in financial markets. For you personally, unethical behavior can cost your job, reputation, and professional stature, and could lead to monetary penalties and possibility of time in jail. Example 4. The importance of ethical conduct in the investment industry. Which of the following statement is most accurate? Investment professionals have a specific responsibility to act ethically because A, the industry is heavily regulated, B, they are entrusted to protect clients' assets, or C, the profession requires compliance with its code of ethics. Solution to example 4, question 1. B is correct. Investment professionals have a specific responsibility because clients entrust them to protect their clients' assets. Reading 1, Part 6, Ethical versus Legal Standards. Many times, stakeholders have common ethical expectations. Oftentimes, different stakeholders will have different perceptions and perspectives and use different criteria to decide whether something is beneficial and or ethical. Laws and regulations often codify actions that lead to better outcomes for society or specific groups of stakeholders. For example, some laws and regulations require businesses and their respective representatives to tell the truth. They require specific written disclosures in marketing and other materials. Complying with such rules in consideration and ethical acceptance, it creates a more satisfactory outcome that conforms to stakeholders' ethical expectations. As an example, consider disclosure requirements mandated by securities regulations regarding the risk of investing. Complying with such rules creates better outcomes for you, your clients, and your employers. First, compliance with the rules reduces the risk of the clients will invest in securities without understanding the risks involved, which in turn reduces the risk that the clients will file complaints and or take legal actions. If their investment declines in value, complying with the rules will reduce the risk of regulators, will initiate an investigation, file charges, and or discipline or sanction you and your employer. Any of these actions can jeopardize the reputation of and future prospects of you and your employers. Conduct that reduces these risks, e.g. following disclosure rules, would be considered ethical. It leads to better outcomes for you, your clients, and your employers, and confirms to the ethical expectations of various stakeholders. Although laws frequently codify ethical actions, legal and ethical conduct are not always the same. Think about the diagram in Exhibit A. In Exhibit 1, many types of conduct are both legal and ethical, but some conducts may be one or the other. Some legal behavior or activities may be considered unethical, and some behavior or activities considered ethical but deemed illegal in certain jurisdiction. Acts of civil disobedience, such as peaceful protests, may be in response to laws that individuals consider unethical. The act of civil disobedience may itself be considered unethical, and yet it violates existing local laws. The investment industry has examples of conducts that may be legal, but considered by some to be unethical. Some countries, for example, do not have laws providing trading while a professional of material non-public information. But many investment professionals and CFA Institute consider such trading unethical. Another area in which ethics and laws may conflict is in the area of whistleblowing. Whistleblowing refers to the disclosure by an individual or of dishonest, corrupt, or illegal activities by an organization or government. Depending on the circumstances, a whistleblower may violate organizational policies and even local laws with the disclosure. Thus, a whistleblower's action may be deemed illegal, yet considered by some to be unethical. Types of conduct. Exhibit A. Some people advocate that increased regulation and monitoring of the behavior of participants in the investment industry will increase trust in the financial markets. Although this approach may work in some circumstances, the law is not always the best mechanism to reduce unethical behavior for several reasons. First, laws typically follow market practices. Regulations may provide design laws and regulations to address existing or anticipated practices that may adversely affect the fairness and efficiency of market or reactively designed laws that regulations in response to a crisis or an event that resulted in significant monetary losses and losses of confidence or trust in the financial system. Regulatory response typically take a significant time, during which the problematic practices may continue to even grow. Once enacted, the new law may be vague, conflicting, and or too narrow in scope. The new law may reduce or even eliminate the existing activity while simultaneously create an opportunity for differences but similarly problematic activities. Additionally, laws vary across countries or jurisdictions, allowing questionable practices to move from places that lack laws relevant to the questionable practices. Laws are also subject to interpretation and compliances by market participants, who may choose to interpret the law in the most advantageous way possible to delay compliance until a later date. For these reasons, laws and regulations are insufficient to ensure the ethical behavior of investment professionals and market participants. Ethical conduct goes beyond what is legally required and encompasses what different social groups or communities, including professional societies, consider to be ethical behavior. To act ethically, individuals need to be able to think through the facts of the situation and make good choices even if absence of clear laws or rules. In many cases, there is no simple algorithm or formula that will always lead to an ethical course of action. Ethics requires judgment, the ability to make considered decisions and reach sensible conclusions. Good ethical judgment requires activity considering the interests of stakeholders and trying to benefit multiple stakeholders, clients, family, colleagues, employers, market participants, and so forth, and minimize risks, including reputational risks. Example 5, ethical versus legal standards. Which of the following statements is most accurate? A, all legal behavior is ethical behavior. B, some ethical behavior may be illegal. C, legal standards represents the highest standard. Question 2 of example 5. Which of the following statement is most accurate? A, increased regulations are the most useful means to reduce unethical behavior by market participants. B, regulators may quickly design and implement laws and regulations to address practices that adversely affect the fairness and efficiency of markets. C, new laws designed to reduce or eliminate conduct that obviously affect the market can create opportunities for different but simultaneously problematic conduct. Solution to question 1, B is correct. Some some ethical behavior may be illegal. Civil disobedience is an example of what may be illegal behavior that some consider to be ethical. Legal and ethical behavior often coincide, but not always. Standards of conduct based on ethical principles may represent a high standards of behavior and a behavior required by law. Solution 2C is correct. New laws designed to reduce or eliminate conduct that adversely affects markets can create opportunities for different but simultaneously problematically conduct. Okay. Part 7, Reading 1, Ethical Decision-Making Frameworks, Laws, Regulations, Professional Standards, and Codes of Ethics can guide ethical behavior, but individual judgment is a critical ingredient in making principled choices and engaging in appropriate conduct. One strategy to increase trust in the investment industry is to increase the ability and motivation of market participants to act ethically and help them minimize likelihood of unethical actions. By integrating ethics into the decision-making activities of employees, firms can enhance the ability and motivation of employees to act ethically, thereby reducing the likelihood of unethical actions. The ability to relate an ethical decision-making framework with a firm or professional code of ethics will allow investment professions to bring principles of the code of ethics to life. An investment profession's nature desires to do the right thing can be reinforced by building a culture of integrity in the workplace, development, maintenance, and this demonstration of a strong culture of integrity within the firm by senior management may be the single most important factor in promoting ethical behavior among the firm's employees. Adopting a code that clearly lays out ethical principles that guides the thought process of conduct and the firm's process from the employees is a critical first step. But a code of ethics, although necessary, is insufficient. Simply nurturing an inclination to do the right is not much more for the magnitude of daily decisions that investment professionals make. We need to exercise ethical decision-making skills to develop the muscle memory necessary for fundamentally ethical people to make good decision disciplines and reality of conflicts and our natural instincts of self-preservation. Just as coaching and practice transformation, our natural ability to run access a field into the techniques and endurances required to run a race, teaching, reinforcing practical ethical decision-making skills prepares us to confront the hard issues effectively. It is good for business, individuals, firms, and industries, and the market as well as society as a whole to engage in the investment management profession in a highly ethical manner. A strong ethical culture that helps honest, ethical people engage in ethical behavior will foster the trust of investors, lead the robust global financial market, and ultimately benefit society. That is why ethics matters. When faced with decisions that could affect multiple stakeholders, investment professionals must have a well-developed set of principles, otherwise their thought processes can lead to, at best, indecision and at worst, fraudulent conduct and destruction of public trust. Establishing an ethical framework to guide your internal thought process regarding to how to act is a crucial step to engaging in ethical conduct. Investment professionals are generally comfortable analyzing and making decisions from an economic profit-loss perspective. Given the importance of ethical behavior in carrying out professional responsibilities, it is important to analyze decisions and their potential consequences from an ethical perspective. Using a framework for ethical decision-making will help investment professionals to effectively examine their choices in the context of conflicting interests common to their professionals. to professional obligatories, e.g. researching and gathering information, developing investment recommendation, and managing money for others. Such a framework will allow investment professions to analyze and choose options in the way that allows them to meet high standards of ethical behavior and ethical decision-making framework. Provides investment professionals with a tool to help them adhere to a code of ethics by applying frameworks and analyzing the particular circumstances of each available alternative. Investment professionals are able to determine the best course of actions to fulfill the responsibility in an ethical manner. An ethical decision-making framework will help a decision maker to see situation from multiple perspectives and pay attention to aspects of the situation that may be less evident with short-term focused perspectives. The goal of getting broader picture of a situation is to be able to create a plan of action that is less likely to harm stakeholders and more likely to benefit them. If a decision maker does not know or understand the effects of his or her actions on stakeholders, the likelihood of making a decision and taking actions that harm stakeholders is more likely to occur, even if unintentionally. Finally, an ethical decision-making framework will help decision makers justify their actions to a broader audience of stakeholders. Ethical decision-making frameworks are designed to facilitate the decision-making process of all decisions. They help people look at and evaluate a decision from multiple perspectives, enabling them to identify important issues they may not otherwise consider. Using an ethical decision-making framework consistently will help you develop sound judgment and decision-making skills, and avoid making decisions that have unanticipated ethical consequences. Ethical decision-making frameworks come in many forms and varying degrees of detail. A general ethical decision-making framework is shown in Exhibit 2. Exhibit 2. Ethical decision-making framework. 1. Identify relevant facts, stakeholders, and duties owed, ethical principles, conflicts of interest. 2. Consider situational influences, additional guidances, alternative actions. 3. Decide and act. 4. Reflect what was the outcome as anticipated. Was it why or why not? The ethical decision-making process includes multiple phases, which have multiple components. The process is often intuitive, and you, the decision maker, may move between phases in an order different from what is presented. For simplicity, we will discuss the phases sequentially. In the initial phase, you will want to identify the important facts that you have available to you, as well as information that you may not have but would like to have to give yourself a more complete understanding of the situation. You will also want to identify the stakeholders, clients, families, clients, your employers, market participants, and so forth, and your duties have to each of them. You will then want to identify relevant ethical principles and or legal requirements. You will then want to identify relevant ethical principles and or legal requirements that might apply to the situation. You should also identify any potential conflicts, requirements, and that they may apply to the situation. You should also identify any potential conflicts of interest inherent to the situation or conflict in the duties of your holders and others. For example, your duty to your client may have conflicts with your duty to your employers. In the second phase of ethical decision-making, you will take time to consider situational influences as well as personal behavior biases that could affect your thinking and thus decision-making. These situational influences and biases could include a desire to please your boss and to be seen as successful by your peers and family, to gain acceptance, to earn a large bonus, and so on. During this phase, you may seek to gain additional acceptance from trusted sources, perhaps a family member, a colleague, or mentor who can help you with thinking through the situation and help you identify and evaluate alternative actions. You may turn to your compliance department for assistance, or you may even consult outside legal counsels. Seek additional guidance for critical steps in viewing the situation from different perspectives. You seek guidance from someone who is not affected by the same situational influences and behavior biases as you are and can. Therefore, provide a fresh perspective. You should also seek guidance from your firm's policies and procedures and the CFA Institute Code of Standards. A helpful tip might be to imagine how an ethical peer or role model may act in a situation. The next phase of the framework is to make decisions and to act. After you have acted on your decisions, you should take the time to reflect on the and assess your decision and its outcome. Was the outcome what you anticipated? Why or why not? Have you properly identified all the important facts, stakeholders' duties, and stakeholder conflicts of interest and relevant ethical principles? Had you considered the situational influences? Did you identify personal behavior biases that may affect your thinking? Had you sought sufficient guidance? Have you considered the proper Have you considered and properly evaluated a variety of alternative actions? You may want to reflect on the decisions multiple times as immediately and long-term consequences of your decisions and actions becomes apparent. The process is often iterative. Often identifying the relevant facts and considering situational influences, you may, for example, decide that you cannot make a decision without more information. You may seek additional guidance on how to obtain the information you need. You may also begin to consider alternative actions regarding how to proceed based on your expectations of what is additional information will reveal. Or you may wait until you have more information, reflect on what you have done and learned so far, and start the process all over again. Sometimes cases can be complicated and multiple iterations may reveal no totally acceptable solutions and can be created. Applying an ethical decision-making framework can help you evaluate the situation so you can make the best possible decision. The next session shows the application of the framework shown in Exhibit 2. Applying 7.1, applying a framework. To illustrate how the framework can be applied in your career, consider the scenario from example 6. Example 6. Applying an ethical decision-making framework. You have been hired as a junior analyst with a major investment bank. When you join the bank, you received a copy of the firm's policies as well as training on the policies. Your supervisors in the senior technology analyst for the investment bank. As part of your duty, you gather information, draft documents, conduct analysis, and perform other support functions from the senior analyst. Your employer is one of several investment banks working on the initial public offering, IPO, of a well-known tech company. The IPO is expected to generate significant revenue for the investment banks participating in the offering. The IPO has been highly anticipated and is in the news every day. You are thrilled when your supervisor asks you to work on several research projects related to analyzing the volume of upcoming IPO for investors. You eagerly compile information and draft a one-page outline. You stop to consider what other information you could add to improve the report before proceeding. You realize that you have two excellent contracts in the technology industry who could review your work and provide some additional potentially valuable perspectives. You draft in an email to your contact reading I am working on an analysis of valuing of a big technology company for investors. My employer is one of the banks providing in the IPO, and I want to make sure I have considered everything. I was hoping you could give me feedback on the prospects and risk facing big tech. Please treat all attached material as confidential. Before hitting the send button, you stop and think about the ethical decision making framework you have studied. You decide to apply the framework and jot down some notes as you work through the process. On the first page, you work through an identification phase and make lists of the relevant facts, stakeholders to whom you owe a duty, potential conflicts of interest, and ethical principles. This list is shown in Exhibit 3. Exhibit 3, identification phase. Relevant facts. Working on the deal/IPO of the decade. 2. Number 1, working on the deal/IPO of the decade. Number 2, employer is one of the several investment banks working on the IPO. 3, the IPO is highly anticipated. 4, a successful IPO could lead to additional investment banking deals and revenues from the firm. 5, superiors are relying on me. 6, employers have documented policies and procedures. 7, industry is regulated with many rules and regulations in place. Part 2. Stakeholders and duties owned. I have the duty to are as follows. Number 1, superiors. Number 2, employers. Number 3, employers, corporation, client, and technology company. Number 4, employers, asset management, and other investment clients. Number 5, employers, partners in the IPO. Number 6, investment in the marketplace participants and interest in the IPO. Number all capital market participants. Conflicts of potential. Part 3. Conflicts of potential conflict of interest, including the following Number 1, gathering additional research versus maintaining confidentiality. Number 2, duty to superior versus duty to impress. Number 3, duty to cooperate clients versus duty to other clients of the firm. Number 4, the firm's corporate client benefits from a high IPO price, whereas the firm's asset management clients will benefit from a low IPO price. Number 5, desire to work on more deals/IPOs versus objective analysis of the investment potential of the deal. And lastly, my bonuses, compensations, and career prospects are tied to my superiors and the IPO success, duty to employer. Number 4, ethical principles that are relevant in this situation includes the following. Duty of loyalty to employer. Exhibit 3 continued. Client's interest comes first. And lastly, the maintain confidence in the confidentiality of information. On the next page, you will write notes relating to the second phase of the framework, considering the various situational factors and guidance available to you before considering alternative actions. These notes are shown in Exhibit 4. Exhibit 4, considering phase, situational influences, includes the firm's written policies. The banks will earn big fees with IPOs. I want to impress my boss and potentially future bosses. My bonus compensation and career prospects will be influenced by my contributions to this deal and other deals. I am one of very few people working on this deal, and it is a real honor, and others will be impressed that I am working on this deal. My employer is filled with successful and wealthy people who are go-getters. I want to be successful and wealthy like them. Additional guidance, I seek guidance from the following: the firm code of ethics, the firm's written policies, my peers in my firm, my supervisors, my senior analyst, my compliance department, my mentor either at the firm or perhaps at my university, the CFA Institute Code of Standards. Number 3, alternative actions I can consider to follow. Number 1, asking contacts what they have heard. Number 2, submitting the report as a draft and suggesting that contacts in the industry may be able to provide more perspective. Number 3, sending a survey to various technology industry veterans, soliciting their viewpoints on developments. After completing these steps, you can check the firm's policies under the section Research Analyst Roles in Security Offerings. The manual states you may not distribute any written, which includes fax, email, electronic, and other means material related to components and or your offerings during the course of any offerings and related quiet period. You read further the notes section entitled Wall Crossing Policy and Procedures that states that employers with confidential information may not communicate the information with anyone that does not have the valid need to know without first obtaining clearance from the legal and compliance department. You decide that your contacts do not have the valid need to know, and that is unlikely the firm's legal and compliance professions will approve sharing the information. You then decide to mention your contacts to the superior research analyst. He suggests that they may have some useful perspectives that you may talk to them to hear their perspectives, and cautions that you do not disclose any information about any of the firm's clients, pending deals, or research. You return to your desk, delete the email, and following the senior research analyst advice, call your contacts on the telephone and discuss the technology sector, its prospect, and its challenges. During the calls, you take care not to reveal any details about the big tech company and its offering. Whatever action you take, you should take time afterwards to reflect on the decision you have made. Was the outcome anticipated? Why or why not? The initial facts presented in the example are based on real-life experiences of a young junior analyst working at a highly anticipated IPO. The junior analyst may or may not have used the ethical decision-making framework to evaluate situations. One in the example which is attached included confidential proprietary information, including the senior analyst analysis and forecast. Months later, after the IPO offering, the junior analyst's email was discovered by his employer. When questioned, he admitted that he had received training regarding the firm's policies and that he had not discussed or seek approval from anyone before sending the email. 2 days later, the firm terminated the junior analyst's employment and reported to regulatory authorities that he had been terminated for distributing written material by email during a securities offerings and violating the firm's policies that prohibit the dissemination of written information during the course of securities offerings and supervised the analyst. Multiple regulators investigated the matter, and the firm was fined millions of dollars for failing to supervise its employees properly. The Information Regulator's website for all to see. Future employees conducting routine background checks will know that the analyst was terminated for violating firm policies relating to security offerings. The example presents is similar to situations faced by many analysts. Using an ethical decision-making framework will help you evaluate situations from multiple perspectives, avoid poor decision-making, and avoid consequences that can result from taking an ill-conceived course of action. Using an ethical decision-making framework is no guarantee of a positive outcome, but may help you avoid making unethical decisions. Example 7. Applying an ethical decision-making framework 2. A financial advisor has been saving a portion of his salary to purchase a new vehicle. He is on track to have enough saved within the next 3 months. His employer has offered special bonuses for this quarter, which will go to the team that attracts the most new investors into the firm's investment fund. In addition to the potential bonus, the firm pays 5% commission to the employees, which sells shares in the firm's investment funds. Several of the funds are highly rated, including one designed to provide steady income to investors. The financial advisor has only a few new investors to the firm's fund, but his teammates has been very successful in their efforts.
The end of the quarter is in 1 week, and his team is completely closing with another team for a bonus. One of his teammates informs the financial advisor that he really needs this bonus so his elderly mother can receive medical treatment. Later that day, the financial advisor meets with an elderly client on a limited income who is seeking more income for his investment portfolio. The client is 98 years old and in poor health. According to the client's will, the investment portfolio will go to his favorite charity upon his death. Which the following situations influences is most likely is the most effect on financial advisors' effect to get new clients to invest in the fund? His relationship with his A, client, B, employer, C, teammate. The answer from question 1 is C. C is correct. The financial advisor's relationship with his teammate is likely to have the most effect on the financial advisor's efforts. Question 2. Which of the following statement is most accurate? An ethical decision-making framework. A is only beneficial when a firm lacks a code of ethics. B is used to improve compliance with laws and regulations. C is a tool for analyzing the potential alternative actions of consequences of a decision. The answer for solution 2 is C. C is correct. An ethical decision-making framework is a tool for analyzing the potential alternative actions and consequences of a decision. Question 3. Which of the following is most accurate? Ethical decision-making frameworks. Is ethical decision-making frameworks. A, raise awareness of different perspectives. B, focus attention on short-term consequences. C, allocate more weight to those who will directly benefit from the decision. The answer from question C is A. Question 3 is A. A is correct. Ethical decision-making frameworks raise awareness of different perspectives. Question 4, which of the following is most accurate? Ethical decision-making frameworks. A, are not needed if behavior is legal. B, identify gains the most firms of decisions. C, can help reduce unanticipated ethical consequences. The answer for question 4 is C is correct. Ethical decision-making frameworks can help avoid unanticipated ethical consequences. Question 5, using ethical decision-making frameworks, which of the following duties may be most likely to take precedence in the scenario? Describe the financial advisor's duty to his clients, to his employers, or to colleagues. Answer to question 5. A is correct. Using an ethical decision-making framework, the financial advisor a relationship with his client would most likely take precedence in the scenario that the advisor should put his client's interests first. The expectations of client's interest takes precedent, occurring when market integrity effects takes precedence. Question 6. Use an ethical decision-making framework. Using an ethical decision-making framework, the financial advisor would most likely A, recommend the elderly client invest in recommend that the elderly client invest at least some of his assets in the high-rated fund. B, research other investments that could provide steady income before making a recommendation to his elderly client. C, to close the commission he would earn before recommending that the elderly client invest in at least some of his assets in the highly rated fund. Solution and answers to question 6. B is correct. Using an ethical decision-making framework, the financial advisor will identify the relevant facts, stakeholders, duties owned, and potential conflicts. In this scenario, the financial advisor who owns the duty to his client as well as to his employer. His client's interest takes precedence over all interests, the bonuses, and his colleagues' desire to help his mother as situational influences. This navigates the situation. The financial advisor should seek additional information. He should research the risk-return parameters and fees structures to other investments that could provide steady income before making a recommendation to his clients. Part A of reading 1, conclusion. The reading introduces ideas and concepts that will help you understand the importance of ethical behavior and investment in the investment industry, as well as challenges to adhering to high ethical standards. A code of ethics will communicate an organization's values and expected behavior to its members, as well as providing guidance for decision making. A code of ethics may be further enhanced and clarified by adaptations for standards of conduct. An ethical decision making framework combined with a code of ethics may help improve professionals analyze their decisions in a way that identifies potential conflicts and negative consequences. Knowledge, knowing the rules to apply in a particular situation, although important, may not be sufficient in ensuring ethical conduct is used alone. Responsible professionals in the investment industry must be able to recognize areas that are prone to ethical pitfall and identify those circumstances and influences that can impair judgment and lead to ethical lapses. Summary of reading 1, ethics and trust in the investment profession. Wow, that's a lot of points. Okay. Ethics refers to a study of making good choices. Ethics encompasses a set of moral principles and rules of conduct that provides guidance for our behavior. Situational influences are external factors that may shape our behavior. Challenges to ethical behavior include overconfidence in our own moral understanding, the effects situational influences, and focusing on the immediate rather than the long-term outcomes of consequences of a decision. In any given profession, the code of ethics publicly communicates the established principles and expected behavior of its members. Members of a professional use the specified knowledge and skills to serve others. They share and agree to adhere to a common code of ethics to serve others and advance the profession. A code of ethics may help foster and confidence that members of the profession will use their specialized skills and knowledge to serve their clients and others. High ethical standards always matter and are the particular importance in the investment industry, which is based almost entirely on trust. Client trust investment professionals to use their specialized skills and knowledge to serve clients and protect client interests. Stakeholder gains and long-term tax benefits will. When investment professionals adhere to high ethical standards, rules and laws often codify ethical actions that lead to better outcomes for such society and other specific groups of stakeholders. Organizing and individuals generally adhere to legal standards, but legal standards are often created to address past ethical failings and do not provide guidance for an evolving and increasingly complex world. Legal standards are often rule-based. Ethical conduct goes beyond legal standards, balancing self-interest with the direct and indirect consequences of behavior of others. A framework of ethical decision-making can help people look and evaluate a decision from different perspectives, enabling them to identify important issues, making wise decisions, and limiting unintended consequences. This concludes reading 1 of our CFA Level 1 curriculum. So I do hope this reading is helpful. I will be conducting a word-by-word reading of all of the 60 readings for our CFA Level 1 program curriculum. I do hope this series will be helpful, and thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.